So in today's video, we're going to build a Freelancer hourly tracking and invoicing spreadsheet from scratch. And I'm going to show you how to start with a client table, add a time tracker to track the amount of hours that you worked for each client, and then how to build and pull that into an invoice template by selecting the client, and then how you can also then download as a PDF. And then finally, I'll show you how to move it from the time tracker to a separate paid tab so you can quickly and easily tell what's been paid and what is still pending. All right, so let's jump right in. First of all, let's create a clients tab. So right click and we'll name this clients. And then I'm going to use a table, just makes this faster and easier to deal with. I'm just going to use a blank one for now. And then we can close this out. And then I'm just going to call this clients as well. And then we're going to set a couple of these. So name, email, rate, and notes. And you can add other things here like address or whatever else you need to capture with that. So I'm going to click and drag to delete these extra columns here. So then when we're done selecting, right click and delete columns. And then I can adjust these down here. I'm going to change this column type to a currency. And then I'm going to paste in some data here so I'm not just sitting here typing. So we have name, email, rate, and then notes here if you need it. And then next, let's create our time tracker. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. And then on this one, we're going to create a table again, and again, a blank one. And then we can call this hours perhaps. And then here, what we're going to do is a couple things. So we can do this in different order. I'm going to go ahead and do date first, and then client, and then we can do description and the actual hours. So then we can pull this over here. So I'm done selecting there, right click again, delete columns. Now you could add a new column here and call it notes if you want private notes. Otherwise, if this is fine, then we can just leave it like this. So I'm going to go ahead and change this column type to a dropdown. And then I'm going to change this to drop down from a range. And so with the tables, I can just type it in here, or you can go and select like this, but I'm going to do it from the named. So when you name it, you can use this name and then the column. So we could do clients and name. I'll show you how to do that right here. So clients, and then we use these brackets, and then we put that column name in there, just like that. And so now that's good to go. And then date, I'm going to change this to a date here, and make this a little smaller here as well. And description, I'm just going to set this to maybe 300, something like that. And then let's change this to a number for the hours. All right, so this should be good to go for here. And so at this point, we could start filling in some data. So sample line item, and this could be an hour. And we can see if we want to centerline any of these. We could change the formatting in this if we want. Maybe to something, instead of the 4-digit year, you could do 2-digit year, for example. And then we could center that there as well. So once you have the formatting the way you like, you can also change things like the color of the table, formatting if you want alternating colors, all that kind of stuff. So once we're done with that, let's go ahead and start creating a invoice. So again, new tab and create an invoice. And again, if you missed that, because that was really quick, just click this add sheet and then right click and you can do rename. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to add a logo. And so I'm just going to do insert image in cell. And so here's where you could upload. I'm just going to do a generic company logo and pull one from here, just like that. And then I'm going to merge it across here, center it, and then we're going to make this a little taller here. Maybe something like 100. And then I'm only going to go to F, so I'm going to go ahead and select these. So I just clicked on this one. So you can either click and drag to select multiple columns, or you can click on one and drag over, hold down Shift, click, right click and delete. All right, and then I'm going to make these narrower. So what I did here was I clicked on this top one, held down Control, clicked on this other one, and now I can right click, resize, and I'm going to drop these down to 20. All right, so I'm going to create an invoice format here. So I'll probably leave one and then merge this, and we'll say invoice. And then basically I'm going to do just some formatting here. So you can walk through, you can make your own format here, whatever you like. And I'm just going to go through this, do a couple different things. So I'm changing the font, the size, the bold, and then I changed the fill color here, and then I switched the text color to a light one. And then I'm going to go over here and horizontally align it in the center, just like that. And then I can maybe make this a little bit shorter, this row here, go down to 10. Just give us a little bit of a buffer so it's not running up right on that when we go to print or export this. And so for my company details, I just put that here, me at mycompany.com. And then I'm going to add something like invoice. And then we can do due date if you like. And so this one I'm just going to do default of today. And so that's just equals today with parentheses. And then I can do a dynamic due date. So I can just do this plus, let's say, 14. And now we have those automatically filled in. And this will automatically update every day. So whatever day you come in here, this will automatically ready to go. Otherwise, you could type this in manually and go like that. So I'm going to go ahead and bold these. And the same thing over here. And then I'm going to resize some more rows here. So let's put this down to 10. And I think I'll do that here as well. So click on this one, hold down Control, click on this one, and I'll resize both of these. And now what I need to do is I need a way to select a particular client and pull it in. So for example, if we have client 2, and I was also working for them on May 1st, and this could be other sample line item. If I go to pull in into this invoice, I only want to pull in for a particular client. So what I'm going to do here is add a drop down. So I'm going to right click here, go to drop down. And so if you remember, we went to drop down from range. So I could go over here and pull it, or I could type it in. So this was clients and name inside those brackets. Enter it, you can see that pop up. Now in this one, I'm going to change this to a arrow display style. So I went to advanced and arrow, just because I don't want that chip to show up when we export this. So I can hit done. I can probably merge these as well. And I broke that data validation. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. So clients name, there we go, advanced options, arrow. And so we could also pull the email address here. So we have different email addresses. We could pull that here just using something like VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP. Either one works. And so I could just look here and then clients. And this would be 2, I think. So let's go ahead and check it out. There we go. And I'm going to right align these. I'm going to go over here to the horizontal alignment and go to right, just like that. And I'll bold these as well. All right, so we're getting there. I'm going to add some column headers here. So we're going to do date, description, hours, and amount. And so what I'll need to do here, I'm going to make this wider, 300, I think is what I did over here. And then let's go ahead and just do a little formatting on this, like that, bold, maybe this font here. You can kind of play around with this, whatever looks good to you. So there we go. And let's go ahead and just pull that data over. So I'm going to use a query. It just makes it easy to quickly pull stuff. So let's do, this will be, see, hours. And I'm just going to do hours like that. And then select let's see here. I don't want this one. So I want A, C, and D. So A, C, D, where B is equal to this client name. So I'm going to I could just do like this and do client 1, and that would work. You can see there's our sample line item, but I don't want to have to type in here every time. So what I'm going to do to add it from this cell is I'm going to replace that with double quotes. So I have single quote, double quote, and single quote. And that may seem a little confusing, but that's just how it works. And then ampersands inside that. And then once we're all the way tucked inside of here, now we can select that cell. And so now if we do that, it works just fine. If I pull another one, let's say we did a little more work for them here. A little more work, just like that. Come back over here, and that's working just fine. We select client 2, now goes to their data. So this will dynamically pull data for that person. So I'm going to make this one a little narrower here. And then I'm going to center these, but I need to pull the amount. So I need to pull that rate and then times it by how many hours we worked. But I want to set kind of the rest of my layout here. So I'm going to give myself maybe about 20 rows. So that's 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I'm going to go ahead and select these. I'm going to make these a little bit taller, maybe 26, something like that. And then I'm going to do a vertical align in the center. And then now I'm going to put a border here. So I'm just going to put a border on one side, the top side here, just like that. And so that gives me my rows here. And then here, I think I'm going to do alternating colors. Now, first it looks a little goofy because we have this header in there. So I'm going to uncheck the header. So you could select it starting here and then do that header, but I like to manually do the header. And so let's go ahead and click done. And we're coming along here. So I'm going to go ahead and select this one and then horizontally center that. And the same thing here. And then let's go ahead and get our amounts in here. And so I'm going to just put a if statement here because I'm going to drag this all the way down. And I don't want anything to show up if there's no hours. So if this is blank, let's show nothing. Otherwise, we can do our VLOOKUP on our client in our client's table. I believe this would be 3. Yep, there we go. And then I do false for exact match. So that gives me my hourly. And then I can times that by my D12. There we go. Before I drag this down, however, I have this reference to the client name. So if I drag this down, this D12 is going to change. If I drag this down here, you can see this changed to D13, which is what I want, but this D5 changed to D6. So now it's trying to look up that email. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select this one and hit F4, or if you don't have an F4, just add a $sign before the D and the 5. Then we hit enter, and now I can drag this down. Just like that. So that does that. So there's my amounts, and then I just need a total. So I'm just going to do a sum here, and then select those rows. And so there's my total, 50 plus 100, just like that. And then I'm going to write total here, and then let's just do a little formatting on this. So I'll make this a little bit bigger, maybe something like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and delete the rest of these rows. So I'm going to click on this, drag all the way down to the bottom, hold down Shift, right click, and delete rows. All right, so we're almost done. One more thing here I'm going to do is remove these grid lines. So view, show grid lines. And now it looks a lot cleaner. So let's go ahead and check it out. So I'm going to go to view, download, and PDF, or you can go directly to print, either one, if you want to print it or if you want to download as a PDF. And then it doesn't look quite right now. So whatever I select here is going to be auto saved for the next time I come in here. And so you can kind of see what that looks like now. So it already looks really clean and nice. And so you can make any more adjustments that you want to make at this point on your looks. If you want to do anything different here, if you had to make this a little wider or so forth. And then whenever you're done, you can just hit export and it'll save it as a PDF. And you can send it to the client. All right, so that is pretty much it. The only thing I'm going to show you now is on this time tracker. Let's go ahead and duplicate this. And I'm going to rename this one, call it paid. Because when you send that invoice and you come back in here, how do you tell if it's paid or not? So we could add a status here and mark it as paid, but I prefer to move it to a different tab just because it makes it less confusing to deal with. So I'm just going to change these all column types to none, just so we can put whatever data in here. It's not going to mess up. So again, none. And so the reason why I'm getting rid of these drop downs is, let's say you're working with a client and then you remove them. And if you delete them from here, if you have that as a drop down, it's not going to work anymore. So for example, if I remove this client 1, you can see we have that error. So just to keep that error from happening after it's paid, we're going to go ahead and just remove that there. All right, so let me delete this data because we don't have any yet. And I'm just going to get rid of some of this extra stuff here. So this one, I'm going to rename this table to paid. And then basically what we can look at is here. So let's say we've sent this invoice. Once they've paid, we can come into our time tracker. And so there's a couple ways we could do this. One is maybe we could sort this column A to Z, and there's our clients. And then we could either copy or cut and move it over here. So let me just paste. So that moves it. It doesn't delete it here. So we could either delete those rows like that, or we could clear them out. We could kind of do a variety of things. Now, if we don't want to do that, maybe they're all the way down here and you don't have to sort through. Another thing we could do is we could create a group by view. And let's go to client. And then we can go ahead and save this as well, just like that. And so now we automatically group by client. So at this point, I come back over here and delete this real quick. I can take these, copy or cut again, and then paste these here. And so if I don't want those drop downs, because it did copy the first time, this time I did a Control-Shift-V, so values only, and then it doesn't bring those drop downs over as well. Whenever you're done, you can either delete like this, or you can delete those rows, and then your group by is out of sync because obviously we changed the data. So if we hit refresh, now it's showing up like that. And then we can always X out, and then you have your group by is disappeared now, but you can always come back to it if you click on this kind of calculator icon, and then you can go back to that group by client if you added more at a later point, and you can always exit just like that. So now we can show these as paid. And then if we come over to invoice, that one's showing as blank. So we could wrap this with an error as well and just say no entries if we prefer, just so we don't have that NA error. And then we could add something here as well if that's blank, just like that. And then we can see client 1, we do have an email address, but no entries. If we go to client 2, we just need to make sure we change this date back here. There we go. Client 1, client 2. So I just needed to reset that because when I changed that to no entries, Google was trying to make that a text field. So once I set it again, then it's working fine. All right, so that is it for today's video on how to set up a Freelancer hourly tracking and invoicing. You could set up other things here, for example, of adding new columns. And this one could be something like sum ifs. And then we could go to our time and we could track hours where the client is equal to this client, which would be right here. And then we can drag that down. And so this would be unpaid hours. And then let's change this to a number just like that. There we go. And then we could do unpaid amount, or this could be pending amount, however you want to call that. Pending probably makes a little more sense here. And then this one would just be their pending hours times our rate, just like that. This one could be a currency. And then we could do the same thing for our paid amounts. So paid hours and paid amount. And so again, we'll do sum ifs, and then we'll go to our paid hours. and paid client. Come back to our clients and make sure I get this out of the way and hit client again. There we go. Let that autofill. We'll change this to a number. Send to that one. And then finally, we'll do this one. There we go. Now we have our quick view here of pending hours, pending amount, paid hours, paid amount. You could also change these as well. Just this column header is there if you want to make it a little more accessible, seeing what those are doing. All right, so that is it for today's video. Make sure to check out our other videos for more tutorials on both Google Sheets and AppScript. And as always, have a great day.